First rule, try. Second rule, try again. We are fueled by the truth. Sometimes life will hurt, but this game will give us strength. Our game plan is to never give up, give in, or give an inch. Whatever your size, shape, or story, there's nothing you can't attack, nothing you can't defend, no line you can't break. There'll be judges, disapprovers, non-believers, but in this game plan, rules are simple. Fear less, play more, take chances, be determined, and breathe. Try again, again, and again. Because once you've started, you can't be stopped. You can't be changed. And this year, we say, be the change you want to see in the game. In a world full of players, be the game changer.
Coming up on S3 tomorrow. No flights or phones in this race across the world at 6. Then loyalty, love and sacrifice in the estate at 7. And the unusual family dynamics of Sort Of at 7:30. S3, open up.
Hello and welcome to our SABC 3 viewers. Welcome to the full view. My name is Bongi Wazwani.
A very good evening to you. I am Oli Zondo and I'll have your latest in all your sporting news.
The headlines at this hour: the ANC announces a national memorial service for late former Cabinet Minister Tina Joemat-Pettersson will be held next Wednesday. After suffering yet another legal blow, former President Jacob Zuma now plans to appeal the High Court judgment against his private prosecution of advocate Billy Downer and journalist Karen Moore.
And coming up in your sport, the race for a place in the DStv Premiership is hotting up, with two teams still in the running and Cape Town Spurs with the front foot.
He finds the back.
And in tennis, Tunisia's Ons Jabeur has been knocked out of the French Open as Iga Swiatek secures her spot in the semi-finals.
The ANC says a national memorial service for late former Cabinet Minister Tina Joemat-Pettersson will be held next Wednesday. The party's Women's League will also hold a memorial on Thursday in honor of the role Joemat-Pettersson played at the time of her death. She was contesting for the position of Deputy President of the ANC Women's League in the upcoming conference. They also announced that her family has requested a private funeral. The former minister died on Monday. National Police Commissioner General Fanima Simula says Brigadier Yap Burger didn't present his investigation into allegations of criminal cartels at Eskom to Scopa as he was worried about his safety. Burger did not pitch up for the Scopa meeting despite the SAPS boss directing him to appear. The committee now says he must be given the necessary protection, although some members believe that his absence is more about what he knows. MPs plan to find out the reasons behind Burger's security fears directly from him.
I did direct him to be here, but I don't see him here. He did raise some concerns around him being appearing publicly, where he raised concerns about his security and so on. And I still said no, he should come, but I do not see him here.
E-hailing taxi drivers and minibus taxi operators have reached a temporary agreement following the torching of two e-hailing vehicles at Maponya Mall last week. E-hailing drivers may not pick up or drop off passengers inside the mall while talks continue to find a long-term solution. Stakeholders, including the Soweto United E-hailing Association, the Soweto Taxi Association and the Soweto Parliament, have been led by Johannesburg MMC for Safety and Transport in a meeting intended to discuss the way forward.
But there are
minibus taxi drivers say they are not in conflict with e-hailing drivers because they operate differently from the industry. However, the Soweto Taxi Association is accusing them of undermining the taxi industry. They claim e-hailing taxi drivers have abandoned using apps for trips and have started operating just like the minibus taxi industry, waiting in long queues and soliciting passengers.
We have a problem. Our brothers here are no longer using apps. This happens in all the malls we operate in. They are forming tax associations on top of us.
But the Soweto United E-hailing Association has rejected the accusation and shifted the blame on another mode of transport, also using passenger vehicles.
They look at us representing the people that are operating illegally in the malls. And I would like to take the stand and the opportunity to say to you, my leaders, we are not those people.
In the interim, e-hailing taxi drivers will no longer be allowed to enter the mall to drop off or pick up passengers. They will only be allowed to do so at mall entrances in Soweto.
For the sake of order, today, can we have a 3 months solution, temporary solution, that says Uber will drop off. Uber will drop off.
Johannesburg MMC for Transport Kenny Kunene has echoed the minibus taxi industry's stance that they were not behind the torching of e-hailing vehicles.
STS was very clear that they did not cause the violence last week Thursday. And that's why I have articulated it in my media interviews that it is not the taxi association. That's what came out of that meeting.
Affected stakeholders met with mall management last week to put an end to the violence and establish a safe working environment. Mbalentle Mthethwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The Western Cape Water and Sanitation Department says although there's a significant improvement in dam levels in the province, it's still urging the public to use water sparingly. Several cold spells have brought much needed rain, but more is needed to fill supply dams.
Dams supplying Cape Town have increased from just over 63.4% to 69.52%. The greatest increase was in the Berg River catchment area. The combined levels for the province has increased to just under 60%. While the rainfall season has just started for the province, there is caution, however.
The department urges all water users to use water sparingly as well as to implement water conservation measures such as rain harvesting and to report all water leaks to their respective municipalities. We are still in the midst of the Western Cape winter rainfall season, and it will take significant rains to fill some of the dams. The department is hopeful that the cut-off flows and the predicted precipitation will increase the dam levels.
The biggest water user in the province, the city of Cape Town, says load shedding continues to cause headaches. Especially at stage 6, water purification plants cannot run full time as it is too power intensive. The city says maintenance teams are stretched to the limit.
Our sewer pump stations, although we are getting better and better at monitoring them, but it means literally having hundreds of people on standby to go and as soon as they trip because of load shedding, rush someone there in a car and try and get it back on before it starts to spill. So it's really extremely difficult, and that's why it's so important for us to end load shedding for all the other reasons, but also because it really takes the pressure off our infrastructure network.
The public is urged to use water very sparingly, especially just before and after a load shedding stage. Mariska Botha, SABC News, Cape Town.
Veteran actor Patrick Boyce Ndlovu, better known as Ntate Moloi from Zone 14, has been described as a multifaceted entertainer who mentored young black actors and loved sport. He had a career spanning over 4 decades acting on stage and on both the big and small screen. Ndlovu is famously known for his role in Shaka Zulu alongside Roland Mqwebu as Ngomane. Family and friends have gathered in Randfontein to say a final farewell. Ndlovu died last week after a short illness. He was aged 85.
Patrick Ndlovu has an acting career spanning 4 decades. This after a short stint at Soca where he earned the name Styles. He got his acting break after being recruited by late producer Gibson Kente. His love for acting saw him touring the world in productions such as Shaka Zulu, Skalo, and How Long, among a long list of others. He was also known for his role on the loved Izo Izo and Zone 14 productions on SABC TV. Colleagues described him as a workaholic and that he should have received his flowers while still alive.
As a father figure, I lacked when I came into the industry. You know, and do and suha we test the sunlight, we say Tazuka Machine, we Tazuka Litoko. That the Moholo Naru Suha Jalo. Now, at the beginning, I was like, you Rosilo Yangantinia. He's preparing us for the harsh world and the harsh industry. That the Moholo Nasina Hutaba. He had no fear. And that is one thing I really admire about him.
May we please give our elders their flowers while they're still alive.
Amen.
I'm sure that is not too much to ask. From where I am standing, Patrick Ndlovu, Dr. Ndlovu, was supposed to have been honored with the doctorate while he was still alive. His contribution to the industry speaks for itself.
His wife of 41 years gave a moving farewell speech through a family member.
You just missed our 41st wedding anniversary by 3 days, as you could not defy our Father above when he called you. I completely understand. On the 3rd of June, I was so sad looking at what I had planned as a surprise for us, but also acknowledging that being admitted to the hospital meant a postponement of those plans.
Ndlovu is survived by his wife, 3 daughters and several grandchildren. Offenses Timo, SABC News, Mohlakeng.
Maynard, it's a juicy kaboom!
Introducing sweet and sour fruit juice and red and blackberry jellies. 2 new juicy kabooms. Which fruity flavor will you love more?
Max, I'm afraid this really isn't what you think it is.
We believe your wife is a German spy. She's the mother of my child.
It is vital you do nothing differently. You're not to investigate or take matters into your own hands.
What happened, Mac?
Running a blue dye on Marianne, but it isn't true. I will prove it. You told me you were smuggled out of France by Marianne Beauséjour. Is this her? Is this her?
Nothing is as it seems.
Never, Mac!
Allied, Sunday at 7:30. S3, open up.
Next time on The Estate.
So that video proves that she was in your club on the night of her disappearance, Cindy.
How can he just up and leave me and drop me like that? What's in
Day off yami la angithi uyabona madlamini ukuthi akasekho. So zonke ivumelwano obunazo naye are cancelled.
I've just been notified by the magistrate's office that she has made a call on the additional charges.
The Estate, weekdays at 7. Open up to S3.
Confidence among local businesses continues to decline. The RMB Business Confidence Index fell for the fifth consecutive quarter, reaching 27 in the second quarter. Rolling blackouts and pressure on profitability were the main contributing factors. This is the lowest level of confidence since 2020 and suggests that only a quarter of business respondents were satisfied with prevailing business conditions.
BCI is down by 9 points from 36 in the first quarter. The decline in confidence was on the back of another decrease in business activity. A challenging business environment such as persistent load shedding, rising interest rates and cost pressures weighed on profitability and affected confidence. New vehicle sales as well as the retail sector experienced the most notable deteriorations in confidence. This is a result of increased pressure on profitability and worsening of business conditions.
The consumer-facing component are the ones that took quite a bit of a hit. New vehicle dealers' confidence contracted by 21 points to 23, which means just over 2 out of 10 executives are satisfied with prevailing business conditions. And then if we look at retailers, also declining significantly by 14 points to 20. And then the other one, which is the third that contracted, is wholesalers, contracting by 8 points to 32. All of the three are now below, at just close to 30 or below 30, which means it's in that dangerous zone.
But just what needs to be done to improve business confidence in the country?
I think the first one would be the resolution of the diplomatic fallout between the South African government and the US government, which we are going to know for certain around August, because we would have the BRICS summit. If the president of Russia does not show up, South Africa will be spared the burden of having to arrest him. But also the renegotiation of AGOA, where South Africa benefits quite significantly. It's up for renegotiation. The existing agreement lapses in 2025, but the renegotiations start to happen in August.
Lower confidence could dampen prospects for job creation and new investments by the private sector. Mhlanga says that in the long term, there has to be a resolution to load shedding so that companies can function for much longer without any interruptions, and that the problems encountered in the logistics sector must be resolved to ensure that the mining and agricultural sectors are able to ship the volumes of production to international markets. He says that the increasing risk of a US recession is likely to lead to capital outflows from emerging markets, including South Africa. Naledi Matlapeng, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The Zimbabwe embassy says it now has about 8 to 10,000 ZAP holders that have registered an interest to return to Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwean exemption permit is due to expire at the end of the month. In April, the embassy had no formal requests to facilitate nationals' return home. However, Zimbabwe's ambassador to South Africa, David Hamadziripi, attributed this to the looming judgment on the High Court challenge of the expiry of the ZEP. The full bench is yet to give a date for the reserved judgment, and the expiry of the permit is approaching. The document allows close to 180,000 holders to live, work and study in South Africa lawfully. When the permit expires, holders can apply for alternative visas or return to Zimbabwe. Portuguese President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa says the fight for democracy is universal. The Portuguese leader, who is on a state visit to South Africa, has denounced atrocities committed during apartheid. De Sousa has also spent time with South Africans of Portuguese descent.
The Portuguese president also took a moment to visit one of the most iconic museums here in South Africa, the Apartheid Museum, just looking at a very turbulent history here in South Africa. President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa says this has been an evocative period as he went on a walkabout alongside his entourage, contemplating the reminders of brutal episodes during apartheid.
Personally, it's also very, very meaningful. On one hand, because I'm president of a country that has been a colonial empire with colonies nearby, Mozambique and Angola. And I had the experience of having lived for a while in Mozambique at the time of the apartheid, coming to Johannesburg and coming to South Africa and being shocked as a teenager of something that was inhuman, against all human rights, against human dignity. Well, and when in our country I myself assumed the responsibility, the historic responsibility of my state for centuries of imperialism and colonialism.
He also affirmed Lisbon's position on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, saying it all boils down to the territorial integrity of Ukraine.
This is a principle of the Charter of the United Nations. Either you respect it, or if you don't respect it, you open the door for something that is the possibility of living in an international community. You must accept some rules. So I hope we can build peace.
The Portuguese leader further met with the Portuguese community in Johannesburg and Pretoria.
We have perhaps between 200 and 300,000 Portuguese here, most of them also with South African nationality, and they contribute extraordinarily to the South African economy, South Africa development. So this was a visit that took a long time to take place. It's been almost 30 years since the last Portuguese president that came here.
Meanwhile, Portugal and South Africa vowed to continue reviewing their bilateral relations to learn from each other and to push for development and innovation. Khalihle Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And sports is coming up next with Oli just after the break.
Selfie.
There's a clinical trial going on right now with a very promising drug, David.
Yeah, Tom and I talked about that.
This is your life. You have got to at least try.
You bumped my patient.
David is dying, and I have a patient who fits the profile perfectly. And now you've sentenced a man to death to try and save someone who can't be saved.
Any idea where your daughter-in-law is?
I imagine she's off doing something healthcare related.
In actuality, she's been visiting neighboring hospitals this morning, handing out favors, using your name, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Drama galore in season 1 finale of Hoten tonight at 9 on S3.
Pagama, rise up. This is the road to the first ever Netball World Cup on African soil. 16 teams are gearing up for the world's biggest netball jamboree. The superpowers of the game, like Australia, England, and New Zealand, are coming to Africa. The Proteas of Africa, Tonga, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Uganda will carry the continent's hopes from 28 July to 6 August in Cape Town. Get to know more about the game changers of world netball, stars, coaches, behind-the-scenes personnel, the countdown to the momentous occasion, and more. Clear your diaries. Catch the game changers of netball. Pakama, Rise Up on SABC2. Also available on SABC Plus every Sunday at 1 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get straight into your sport news and start things off with football. Cape Town Spurs are a step closer to the DStv Premiership. The team, which was playing with 10 men for most of the second half, beat Kazrick Stars of Mpumalanga 1-0. The win gives the Cape Townians 9 points from 3 matches. They are now 6 clear of Maritzburg United, who have a game in hand. The team of choice will travel to the winless Stars for their next match on Saturday.
Murol and Ali, who's really pushed forward, gets the cross in for Musa.
This might fall for Noel has scored! Left footer! He finds the back of the net, Morné Noel, and Spurs have their lead with 73 minutes gone on the clock. Here's Musadi's ball now. Header away from Noel. Shot. Oh, what a save from Pfeiffer! And that is the final whistle. Spurs, with a magnificent save in the end from the goalkeeper, come away with all 3 points.
And on to cricket now. India won the toss and opted to field at the World Test Championship final between Australia and India at the Oval. Travis Head and Stephen Smith capitalised on India's wayward attack in difficult batting conditions to put Australia in the driving seat by the end of day one. At close of play, Australia had amassed 327 runs for the loss of only 3 wickets.
India versus Australia at the final of the World Test Championship, and we're here at the Oval.
All set for the second World Test Championship final. And India have drawn false blood.
Bread and butter for David Warner.
And these runs are flowing.
David Warner, he'll be gutted.
Oh, what a ball from Mohammad Shami. The breakthrough India wanted.
Brilliant batting. Travis Head is in a hurry here.
We're watching a great player in action.
And a really top innings this. So the runs beginning to leak here. And suddenly the scoreboard rattling along.
Test century in the ultimate test for Australia's most attacking batter.
That is batting perfection.
Travis Head and Stephen Smith have taken Australia to a very safe place on day one.
And on to rugby. The Currie Cup is struggling to stay relevant and exciting in the South African rugby landscape. Spectators naturally gravitate towards the United Rugby Championship, the Champions Cup and the Challenge Cup. However, for the next few weeks, the Currie Cup takes centre stage, and the action-packed permutations of the oldest tournament in the land promises not to disappoint.
Western Province came away from Kimberley with a losing bonus point for 4 tries scored. It means they are still alive in the Currie Cup, but only just, and will need other results to go their way, even if they can give the high-flying Sharks a hiding. It compounded a torrid 2 weeks, where 2 crucial losses threatened to define what was otherwise a very promising 2023.
We'll still enjoy the moments when it's, things aren't working. It's like we're still doing the thing that we love, is playing rugby. So I think we're very excited, and it's building it's building nicely for this weekend. We'll get the mistakes out, get the rough stuff out in training, and hopefully Saturday is gonna be proper Province rugby.
Been putting in big hits all year.
Boys lifted.
Oh, it's delicate stuff.
The sense you get from this Western Province side is that they won't retreat into their shell. They've committed to province-style rugby, and that's all the coaches really want from the players.
If it is a loss game, and is a loss game, we want the guys to play lekker, man. They must play nice. They must feel they're playing. We want them to give each other energy. We don't want to drive the energy. We have to drive the energy, but and when they're in that state of mind, that's when they operate.
The Cheetahs, meanwhile, have secured a home semi-final with a match to go. Their win over the Pumas is an indication that the Cheetahs are back on the right track, and they won't want their showdown against the Bulls, who are still fighting to ruin that rediscovered form.
It's a massive win for us, not just securing the home semi-final, but as a team, I think everyone, even at halftime, you could feel things starting to change for us, and it's almost like we started to get our groove back. So I think momentum-wise, it was a very big win for us.
The Cheetahs are aware there is more on the line for the Bulls and plan to relish the intensity of the match, which will serve to get them ready for their home semi-final.
So it's a big game. As you guys can see, the Bulls have been picking now ever since they finished playing the URC. So it's not going to be an easy game. We know what they bring. We're going to have to keep the same consistency from the weekend's game bring the same energy to win.
Griquas versus the Pumas, a replay of last year's final, will set the tone for what's at stake in the final round of the Currie Cup. Further proof of what provincial rugby can offer in a competitive rugby landscape. Simon Burke, SABC News.
And that's where we'll leave it from the sports desk for this evening. Up next is your latest weather update.
Thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to the weather desk. It was sunny in most areas of South Africa today, even though we started off with some dense fog over the Gauteng province. But for the remainder of the night, there are some partly cloudy skies over the western parts of the country, an indication of a cold front that is approaching the Western Cape province, with a very good chance of rainfall overnight in the Western Cape with an 80% probability. Otherwise, isolated and scattered showers are expected over the western parts of South Africa for tonight. And for tomorrow, expecting another clear day over the eastern provinces, but the cold front will make landfall over Cape Town with a very good chance of rainfall over the mother city and surrounding areas at an 80% probability. Otherwise, isolated and scattered rainfall is expected over the southwestern corner of South Africa, with clear conditions expected to persist over the northeast, even though there is a very good chance of some fog patches in the Gauteng province that will reduce visibilities on the roads in the early hours of the morning once again. And we are also warning for very strong winds over the western coastal areas of the Western Cape province for tonight, and these conditions will result in very difficulties navigating offshore the coastal areas of the Western Cape. These conditions will persist for tomorrow, but there is also another warning of disruptive rainfall over the interior of the Western Cape, with the possibility of localized flooding and runaway fires are possible over the Eastern Free State in towards the western parts of KwaZulu-Natal. And tonight, temperatures are very cold over the western interior, especially over Sutherland and in the Northern Cape. Bloemfontein will drop to 3 degrees overnight, a minimum of 9 degrees in Johannesburg and 10 in Pretoria, but still pleasant conditions in the Lowveld region of Limpopo and along the east coast of South Africa. And for tomorrow, very warm weather conditions throughout KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and Limpopo, but mild conditions in the Highveld, including a maximum of 21 in Bethlehem and 22 degrees over Johannesburg. Pleasant conditions over the eastern half of the Eastern Cape, but mild temperatures over the western interior. Cold weather conditions are expected in Sutherland at a maximum of 9 degrees for tomorrow afternoon. And that is all from the weather desk.
There have been almost 5 months of virtual stalemate on the battlefields of Ukraine, and yet Europe and America are clear that Kiev won't get the fighter aircraft and long-range weapon systems it wants. So what's the grand plan as seen from Brussels? Is there one? My guest is